That giant glowing XLM logo in the thumbnail isn't clickbait. It's a warning. Because right now, the signals around Stellar look nothing like the dead payments coin story most people still believe. And before we go deeper, nothing in this video is financial advice. Always do your own research and never invest money you can't afford to lose. Alright. Let's talk about what's actually happening underneath XLM, because the data from this year is telling a story almost nobody is paying attention to. While most of crypto moved on to the next meme narrative, Stellar spent 2025 quietly doing something much more dangerous for anyone ignoring it. It started behaving like real financial infrastructure. Not hype, not promises, actual usage. In the last months, smart contract activity on Stellar didn't just tick up a little. It went vertical. The network saw a massive jump in smart contract calls, crossing into the hundreds of millions of transactions. And that wasn't driven by casino games, it was driven by real-world asset experiments, payments, and new protocols actually building on Soroban, Stellar's smart contract layer. At the same time, the network processed over 1 billion operations with near-perfect uptime, fees stayed at a fraction of a cent, and the latest protocol upgrades were rolled out to handle even more traffic without breaking a sweat. So on the raw technical level, the picture is simple. More contracts, more operations, more real volume, and still fast and cheap to use. That alone would already be interesting. But it's not the part that creates real FOMO. The real FOMO starts when you look at what kind of money is actually moving over these rails. This isn't just random Dagon volume. We're talking about stablecoins, regulated assets, and real-world value that has a job outside of crypto Twitter. On Stellar today, you have serious stablecoins like USDC and PayPal's PYUSD issued directly on-chain. You have Euro stablecoins. And you have organizations using these rails for remittances, humanitarian payouts, and business-to-business settlement. Think about what that means. These players are not chasing the next pump, they just need something that works, fast, cheap, and compliant enough to survive a meeting with a legal department. And 2025 added a few important bricks on top of that. Circle expanded its cross-chain stablecoin infrastructure into Stellar, making it easier to move value between Stellar and other major chains. PayPal brought its own stablecoin into the ecosystem, and big funds stepped in as strategic partners to help scale the real-world asset and DeFi side of the network. So now you have this weird tension. On one side, the chain is loading up with smart contracts, real-world assets, and regulated stablecoins that connect to actual businesses. On the other side, a big part of the market still files XLM under that old cross-border coin from back in the day. Those two pictures don't match. And whenever they don't match for too long, something usually snaps. If you've been watching other networks before they moved, you've seen this pattern. First the loud speculators get bored and walk away, the charts go sideways, the memes disappear. Then, in the quiet phase, builders and institutions slowly take over the block space. They test integration, they move small amounts of value, they check compliance, they fix the boring stuff. And only when something obvious hits the news, a new partnership, a big launch, or a macro rotation back into quality infrastructure, does the wider market suddenly realize what has been built in the dark. Right now, as I'm recording this, XLM is trading somewhere around the lower double-digit cent area. For a chain that's pushing heavy stablecoin flows, real-world asset volume, and one of the most active smart contract environments in the industry, that's a strange place to sit. I'm not going to stand here and give you a magic target. That's not how this game works. Even with strong fundamentals, price can still get cut in half before it ever moves higher. And there is a real question you always have to ask yourself. How much of this network activity will actually translate into sustained long-term demand for the XLM token? Not just for the rails. But if you strip away the emotion and just look at the pattern, it's hard to ignore what's forming. You have a payments-first chain, upgraded with smart contracts, plugged into major stablecoin issuers, used by serious organizations, and still priced like a side character from the last cycle. When networks like that finally reprice, they rarely do it slowly. It usually looks boring for a long time. Sideways, sideways, sideways. And then suddenly the chart gaps up and everyone acts surprised. So how do you use this information without turning it into blind FOMO? For me, the edge is not about guessing an exact number. It's about watching a few key signals and asking one simple question: are these still moving in the same direction? Smart contract usage, real-world asset volume, stablecoin supply and actual transaction activity on Stellar, plus new integrations that clearly need fast, cross-border settlement. If all of those keep trending up while priced is almost nothing, the asymmetry gets more and more interesting. If they roll over, or if regulation suddenly hits one of these pillars directly. That tells its own story too, and you adjust. None of this means go all in on XLM. This entire video is just my personal view on public data and news. Not a signal, not a guarantee, and definitely not financial advice. You have to do your own research. You have to understand your own risk. And you should never put money into any asset you can't emotionally handle seeing drop. But there is one position that makes less and less sense to me as we move through 2025. And that's pretending Stellar doesn't matter anymore. Because the moment you treat something that behaves like core financial plumbing as if it were just another random altcoin, that's usually where the real regret begins. If this helped you see XLM with a different lens, hit like so more people wake up to what's actually happening under the price chart. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the infrastructure plays the market only notices when it's almost too late. And now I want to hear from you in the comments. What do you think will be the real catalyst for Stellar over the next year? Stablecoin rails, real-world assets, institutional payment corridors, or something we're all still underestimating? Because the networks that quietly wire themselves into global money flows while everyone else is distracted are usually the ones people wish they had paid attention to a lot earlier.